You mentioned you started at 14.
I started with photography really young because my dad used to sell camera equipment. So instead of putting me into childcare, he put me into the back of the car when he went from shop to shop to shop, and I'd be surrounded with little 35mm cameras and blower brushes and litmus paper. So it was just there. It was submersion into photography. But it was when I was around 14 that I started to discover live music, as most kind of teenagers do, and I was big into live music, and I just kind of like a little light bulb moment going, oh, I could put the two of them together and do music photography. Just, reading Melody Maker, reading NME, and finding out all these names that appeared of these music photographers. I was like, oh my God, it must be a real job. And so I think from the age of 14, I just set my goal. I want to be a music photographer. I want to be a full-time music photographer. And that job doesn't really exist, but I've somehow managed to kind of not starve.
When was your first paid job for music photography?
I was in my third year of a 4-year degree studying photography, and we had a visiting guidance counsellor kind of dude who came in, held his hands up and went, I've no clue about photography. I don't know anyone in the industry. I don't know how I'm going to help you at all, but I do know one person. I know the photo editor of Hot Press, but that's probably useless to you all. And at the end of that seminar, I went up and was like, can I have his email address, please? And gave his email address, and I got together like a selection of images, maybe like 10 to 12 of what I considered my best images, which shockingly bad now that I look back. And I emailed them to the photo editor, this email address that I had, and I heard nothing back, absolutely nothing back. And kind of breaks your heart a bit when you try to reach out to people, you don't hear anything. So I emailed them again. I was like, hey, maybe you didn't get my email the first time, so here's the second one. And nothing back again a couple of weeks later, and I thought, you know what, I've nothing to lose. It's as big as music magazine, it's the only music magazine in Ireland. I've nothing to lose. I have this email address, I might as well just go for it. And I was a little bit more forceful in my third email. It's just like, hey, read my email. There's loads of blanks, so I'm not going to say here. And he wrote back, he was like, okay, you're persistent. I like that. Let's meet for a cup of coffee tomorrow, bring in your portfolio. And at the end of that meeting, he said, go shoot Roisin Murphy in the Village tomorrow night. And I was like, so that's how I kind of started with Hot Press. And after I shot that gig, he gave me a whole page of feedback on my images, and they were so negative. It was full of criticism. It was so heartbreaking reading this email. I remember it was just, he was spot on with his remarks. The criticism was completely on point, where he was saying you didn't move around the pit enough, you're slightly, your focus isn't sharp enough, da. I kind of just took me a while, read it, wrote back on, I really appreciate it, thanks so much, I'm sorry I failed you, kind of thing. But I didn't fail him. That was just the way of the press that I had no clue about. This is a professional industry, and he's being very professional, and he's giving me constructive feedback. Once you get into the real world and realize that people aren't nice, but they're willing to help you if you take on constructive criticism, that was one of the main things I had to learn quickly. And then began my next, say, 5 or 6 years working in Hot Press, where I learned more in those few years working for them than I did in any degree or anything else that I'd previously done. Because you were out in the field and you were learning hands-on, and if you made a mistake, you messed up the job, and they'd have to run with different pictures or a different story. So it was quite harsh, but it helped me so much. Practical advice that you can give people when they're starting out in music photography, because it can seem a bit daunting. You're going to a gig, you have to deal with the promoter or the booker or the venue staff and the bouncer and then the bands and things like that. And I guess some of the questions that people always ask me is like, how do you get your press passes? People want to know, they think it's this like golden ticket kind of thing that gets you in everywhere. It's like, oh my God, you get a press pass. And yeah, it is in a way,
Yeah.
You get a sticky, or a laminate if you're working with the band full time. And you get your press pass, your accreditation normally through the promoter. So if there's a gig in a band that you want to shoot, you have to contact the promoter and go, hey, so-and-so are playing in your venue, and in 10 days time I'd love to come and shoot them. Now, most of the time, if a promoter doesn't know you, if you're not a music photographer that they're very familiar with, you'll have to send them like your work and go, I'm actually quite good, don't just waste the pass on anyone.
So maybe include some samples within the email?
Include some samples, yeah, but don't go mad and send them like 5 gigs worth of crap shots, you know. I make my money, yes, these days I do make a lot of it through music photography, because I'm lucky enough now that I've been doing it for so long that I can work for Electric Picnic as one of the official photographers, or Hard Working Class Heroes, or, you know, big festivals like that who need to employ photographers, and they will pay to have good photographers there. So I can do that now, but you know, I shot Hard Working Class Heroes for 11 years. Not all of those was as the official paid photographer. I shot a lot of those for Hot Press where they were paying me 50 quid. So you have to put the time and effort into building up yourself as a business and as a brand and as a reputable professional. It's tough. You end up working 7 days a week and your heart breaks a lot of the time, especially when the emails rock in and they're like, hey, we love your work, we really want you to work with us, we don't have a budget though, and you're just like, delete. You don't have a budget, so stop asking me. So
there's no real money in music photography. Where do you make your money as a photographer?
I make a good portion of it through music photography, through shooting festivals, but then I do a lot for corporate clients as well. Clients would see my work, a lot of my gig work and things like that, and kind of associate it with being like a cool kind of nighttime lifestyle type thing, and they're like, oh, that's what we want for our brand. And they're the magic words. It's like, because they have a corporate client, you know, so it'll be the PR bookers, they have a corporate client in mind. There's a lot of big brands out there willing to pay for cool photographers. But you really have to be super versatile. You have to know way more than just stage lighting. Being a music photographer is that, anticipating the movement of the stage lighting and the movement of the band, and creating and capturing an atmosphere. But being an events photographer is way more than that. You have to do social photography, good with people, good with captioning, and then you also have to capture the ambience of the event, because you know, these PR people and this drinks company want to show that their event was the most banging event ever. So you have to do all of that. And then you have to photograph still life, because they want a picture of the product they're launching. I don't know what they're launching, a jewellery line or a cocktail or something like that. So you have to photograph that. So you really have to learn your craft and learn all that kind of stuff before you can actually make money out of it. So I think once you get to the level where people know your own style, then they'll start entrusting you with different jobs to do like that, which has no relation to music at all. It's fun, but it is very varied. You do have to know your gear and your equipment and things like that to make it work and not mess up. Although I do mess up a lot, so oh well.